All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. My name is Nobody James, and as always, I'm here with Nobody John. John, how have you been this week?
Feeling sore.
Feeling sore. You've been saying you got a little bit back into the gym. All right. You said I don't care about COVID anymore. I'm not going to sit around and do nothing, get fat and stupid. I think that's what it was. I actually said that you were getting fat, and you were like, I'm going to the gym. I'm done with this. If James is calling me fat, then I'm just not having it.
Well, not going to get fat. Too late. Done did that. Trying to reverse the last year, but yeah, no, I still COVID. I bought some Adidas workout masks. Got those, $20. Went to the local Academy store, picked those up. Um, Monday went to the gym at 4 a.m.
Did you buy new shoes because you needed new shoes,
I
or did
do
you
need
buy?
I
Did you
I
hold
do
on,
need
did
new
you buy?
shoes.
Did you buy new shoes as the incentive to get back into it? Because
I don't
sometimes
have new shoes.
you you said you bought some new Adidas.
Mask. Adidas mask.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just heard Adidas and I blanked out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's fine. You rolled with it. I do need new shoes, by the way, though. I really do. Uh, these are starting to like wear funny where my foot slips to the inside. But no.
Pretty
So I went
cool.
to the gym on Monday morning, and there were 17 people there at 4 a.m. And I
And
thought,
that's a small gym, right? That's a
no,
pretty
it's a huge gym. It's the biggest gym in my town, a two-story and stuff like that. But I still didn't want. I wanted four or
yeah,
five people there. I didn't want
right.
17. And I think around like 5:30, there was probably almost 30 people there. I was like, I'm apparently not the only person that wants to avoid COVID to show up when everybody else is here for no COVID. I am the only person that was running on a treadmill with a mask. So,
That shit is hard. I did that back whenever COVID kind of kicked into gear, and I
mm,
would go to the gym, and I did before I had the treadmill, and I would rock the mask, and it really does. I mean, the first mile or two, it's not that bad, but by the third one, it's really restrictive. It's actually really good for you. Actually, it helps you learn to control your breathing and stuff, from what I understand, and it gets your heart pumping even
yeah,
more.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not running as fast as I used to. I didn't know if that's because I was out of weight or the mask. No, when
Mask
they,
does
yeah,
not
around
help.
the mile three, they get moist. It gets a little thicker. It's harder to
Especially that
breathe.
it's like breathing through a wet towel. Yeah, it's insane.
Uh, can't waterboard me.
That's kind of what it feels like. It feels like you're like just constantly being waterboarded, which hey, whatever, to each
Yeah.
their own.
So on Tuesday, I was like, I'm not going. I'm not going to the gym at 4 a.m. I'll go in the evening. We'll check it out. So I go at 10 o'clock. Yeah, there's like 20 some odd people there. I was like, gosh darn it. So I went again yesterday at 10 o'clock, and there's like 7 people there. I was like, I can't keep this consistent. The app shows like a medium-sized bar. I'm sure I'm not going after work because it's like 3 or 4 bars because it's got like a people meter, crowd meter, or whatever.
That's
Um,
really nice. So, and it's is it accurate? Are you finding that it's relatively accurate?
yeah, I mean like semi. Like I'm not. I'm avoiding the place like the plague. When I drove by and it was 4 bars. I mean like there was tons of cars there. So I'm pretty sure it's decently accurate. I don't know how fast it updates for the people that check in and check out, but yeah, it seems to be on par. So
My gym, the Y is what I use is definitely not like that.
see.
You nailed it. You nailed it. I don't even know. I don't even know what just happened. But yeah, they didn't have a way to track it, at least not to my knowledge. So it was kind of a crapshoot on when I'd
hmm
show up. And like I said, it whenever our cases here in Green Bay got really high, I decided to kick it to the curb altogether. That's when we bought the treadmill, and it just wasn't worth it to me. And that's where I've been. I put it on hold. It's set to kick back up, I think, in March, but I might cancel it at that point just because everything that's going on in my life. I don't know that I have time.
You know what? And you might as well. So I'm I'm cheap, and I will try to get
Sure.
deals when I can. So generally around New Year's or Christmas, the big gyms will do deals. They're like, oh man, you sign up for this time, you get this many months free. So I stacked for 2 years in a row that New Year's membership thing, and so like I haven't paid, and I haven't been to the gym in a year, but I haven't paid for like a year and a half, and my membership doesn't expire till June. So I was like, listen, if I can go late at night or early in the morning, I can do a little bit of workout. So anyway, I started running again. I'm not up to the speed or the distance that I wanted to. I think the farthest I ran was 6 miles. That was the day before yesterday. Was on Tuesday, and I've done a little bit of arm workout. We'll see how it is. I am a tubby tub, so it's gonna be hard. So I had Taco Bell for dinner. Well,
See, see, that's kind of my problem. First of all, I've run into a couple of different issues. Number one, I've been running constantly throughout this pandemic. It's never been a situation where I stopped completely. I've dropped down to like 3 or 4 days sometimes, but overall, I run on average of 5 days a week. I only run 3 miles a day, and then I usually walk a mile or two to ensure that I get my steps. But so I do about 5 miles total, but two of which are walking. But
hmm
I've been I don't know if it's just getting stagnant or if I'm just getting a little bit
old,
burnt out or whatever the case
old.
is. Maybe old is a factor too. That's true, but I'm just having a really hard time. Yesterday I was trying to bump it up, and I tried to run the full 3 miles at 8 miles per hour, and
hmm
which is, I will admit, it's a pretty tall feat for myself, but you would think I would be to the point, having worked out and run for like 4 years now, that it would be no issues at all. But I'm a cycling kind of mentality. Like when I'm running, I need to bump it up and drop it down to feel like I'm changing the pace. If I just run steady at 7 miles per hour, then I get really bored and I just can't do it. I need something to break it up, and
Why
I
don't you
need those
crank it up?
milestones. I just, like I said, I get burned out. I get tired. I just can't do it. I'm having a hard time. I'm hitting a ceiling, and
Do you
I'm
know what? Do you
surprised
know what
that
I
I'm getting
do?
there.
I start at that
Don't run
8.
and eat a whole pack of
That was the old me.
Taco
That was
Bell.
the
Oh,
2020 me. Okay, I'm past that.
you started
No,
Monday.
yeah, it's a new new me. It's
Okay.
it's the new me, which is actually the old me, the fit me. No, so I start at a low 8 miles per hour, and then I kick it up every mile. Add another point one, just boom, 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 and then on your last mile, whatever you want to hit that nines, hit the 9.5s. If you were the old me, you'd be like rocking 9.8, 10 miles per hour on that last mile, and you'd be slamming the treadmill. People around you are like, "Who is this heavy-footed mother?" And then you're just like, "Fuck, I win, I win."
Yeah,
That and
I don't know.
techno.
I have been listening to a lot of like infected mushroom and stuff like that while I run. It's just getting me going, and as soon as that beat drops, you want to crank it up to
Boom.
9 and just go nuts. That's You mentioned before, like I've got displayed right here. I've been listening to Hybrid Theory, Linkin Park, one of my favorite bands, uh, my favorite band of all time specifically. But I've been listening to a little bit of Blink 182 and a little bit of Linkin Park while I'm on the
Nah, Lincoln
treadmill.
Lincoln
Like,
Park's where it's at, man.
yeah, but the problem is it's so familiar that it doesn't amp me up. I need that new feeling.
I
I
don't
just
need
can't
that.
get
Like
jazzed.
legitimately Disturbed, a little bit of Rammstein and Linkin Park. They get me going. I'll be honest with you. When I was in middle school, that album came out behind you. I had to borrow my sister's CD player because it had more RAM. It had that anti skip, and I used to run with a CD player to that album right there. So I mean, like,
I'll admit, I put on one of these days. What we're gonna have to do is dedicate an entire episode to just going through Linkin Park's discography, because I know you kind of fell out after, I would guess, Meteora or something in that
yeah, there's been a
ballpark.
couple new albums that I don't own or listen to a lot, but yeah.
I think that we should run through their entire discography, and we could do that with a couple of bands. I know you and I don't have a lot of commonalities when it comes to music, except for the fact that I listen to everything and you listen to mostly nothing. But I think Linkin Park's something that we could vibe on and actually run through an entire
I don't
discography.
use
Or
that word. Don't
what?
use that.
Discography?
No,
Vi-
vibe.
What's wrong with you? You're
It's
like
disgusting.
you're so dumb. You're
Oh
so
man, don't mess up my vibe. Like, what are
you're
you, a
so dumb. You sound
vibrator?
exactly
You
like your sister here.
vibrating?
I do vibrate. Sometimes I just sit here and just
Oscillating.
yeah, it's like an earthquake in my body. But
That's
um,
called this. That's called a seizure, and that's too close to home, and you know that.
that's true. That's true. Um, I do,
Now I
like I
know
said,
where she gets it.
from me vibrating. That's the
It's
thing.
your genes. It's your
My
bad gene.
random my random vibrations cause my
I'm,
daughter's epilepsy.
I'll have to ask your wife if that's why she married you,
That's probably
or
got
was it
nothing.
the Schadenfreude?
It's definitely that. But I have been including or recirculating back in the 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups back into
I
my
need to do that.
repertoire. Realistically, I just need to drop like 7 or 8 pounds. I weighed myself. I think it was Monday, and I weighed 176, and I'm not far off from where I want to be. I feel pretty good about the 70 range. Especially we've been talking about, and we're going to take our trip. We're going to go back to the Katy Trail
Oh, did I
this
get the
May.
time off?
Did you get the time off?
No, I did. I know. Just messing.
Okay,
I'm
you
just
already
messing.
you said you did. I just went and bought a bike. You better have gotten the time off. So, I'm not doing it again on a Walmart Schwinn, a $140 bike. It's just
Hey,
not
there's
gonna.
nothing wrong with a $140 bike.
There's probably not, but whenever you're on it for almost 300 miles,
My bike's my bike was an Amazon bike, and it was like 140 bucks, and I had to put it
was it
together. It
really?
came, yeah,
Oh, I'm surprised. I'm actually impressed. Mine was not put together well. I had slipping gears. I even took it in to get it tuned up and looked at, and they said it was good to go. And
your
like within
crankshaft was
within
bad.
20 miles, it was slipping and I was falling and it was all over the place. So like I said, I just invested, got a decent.
It's a sexy looking bike. If you had a picture, I'd show the crowd your bike, but you didn't
Maybe,
pre-prep that. Eh,
yeah.
you could add it later post production.
There you go. Maybe I can.
Like it would fly through the images.
I had to go a little bit more. I don't know. I say budget friendly, but it was still like almost $1,000 bike, but
Holy.
still.
Well, hey, it's already got the back rack on it.
Yeah, I got that added on, so I added to the cost. That and
Oh,
the
so that
pedals.
wasn't
I had to buy
included
the.
in the thousand. That was.
No, not at all. And I'm about to buy another set of saddlebags. That's something I'm looking at, and that's going to be like another 80, $90 because this rack I got installed has this really cool feature where you can slide and clip, and then it has like it's almost like a camcorder size pack that you can slide in there, but then you have to open it and it drops down and it gives you a nice deep saddlebag, and it's built for this rack. It's pretty nice looking actually.
Huh. Yeah, I
So
actually found out how to mine our quick release, by the way. All I have to do is pull up on the handle, move them away from the bike, and they like just fall right off. It's great. I didn't realize that a
that's
whole trip. So yeah, no, definitely
I'm
excited. I'll be honest with
I'm
you.
excited.
Eric's gonna listen to this, but I don't know
You're
him and
nervous.
Tony.
You're
I'm just
nervous.
like
There's nothing. No, the thing is, we just need to accommodate
neither of them.
appropriately. No, no, no. We're not going to leave them. That's stupid. We're going to appropriately accommodate. We're going to set goals and we'll meet them intermittently. If that means we have to stop a little more occasionally, then that's fine. The ultimate purpose is to just have a good time. That's the goal. But that's what I'm thinking is maybe you and
This means I
I
can drink more.
say that again.
I said this means I can drink more.
That's true. That's true. And that's absolutely what I intend to do. I have two goals. I want to number one, I want to enjoy my time more because it was very goal oriented for me.
Last time.
And yeah, it was very much like, all right, like we rode 86 miles in one day, which I feel like was a little excessive. Um, but excessive for us in our current
I think we were
bicycling
fine until we ran
states.
into that hive of man-eating horseflies.
That's true.
I
Um,
hate horseflies.
but ultimately, like I said, there were a couple of days we pushed really hard. There were a couple of days we took it a little bit easier. But overall, I felt like it was we didn't get to enjoy our experiences. Half of it was because of COVID, because it was fresh and it was new and everything was shut down and it was really shitty on that front. And the second reason was specifically because, like you said, or like I previously said, was I was trying to see how much I could do. So that's that. So I want to enjoy my time more. And the second is I want to go further than we did. So
Well, added that little extra bit down from Kansas City. It's going to hopefully.
yeah, we will essentially do after all is said and done 300 miles.
I'm down.
And that's the part that I wonder if maybe you want to do like the first 60 miles just us, and then we can meet them in Clinton, and then we will break. If we, the thing is, if we ride down to Windsor, not to turn this into a whole trip planning, but we can talk about this more later. But just real quick to finish my thought, if we ride down to Windsor, then down to Clinton, meet them in Clinton, and we just give ourselves one day. That would be 80 miles in one day, which would be a hell of a trip. right? And there's nothing we're going to
I
miss. I'm
mean,
not worried about that. And then we'll be nice and worn out, so we'll be on track to participate with their speed and accommodate them.
James, I don't understand. Like, you've known me for a long time. You went on that first bike ride with me, and you think I can get wore out? Come
Yeah, that's
on.
actually a good point. You make a lot of other flaws when it comes to your physical conditions and health. Like you'll get dehydrated, you'll get malnourished, you'll get sunburned, you'll get staph infection, but worn out's not
Blood
something you do.
poisoning.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Hey,
You're
but
out
I'm
there
up
like,
with the birds, you
yeah,
know?
you're like up the next morning, it's like 4:30, you're like, I think I'm gonna go on a 10-mile run real quick. I'm like, we're getting ready to ride 80 miles today. You're like, doesn't matter. And then by the time you get back, you're like, you're not even sweating. There's just like what is it, like little salt crystals all over your face, like dry salt crystals, and you just
Put it on the
brush it
hash
off.
brown, baby. It's
I like
breakfast time.
blow on your blow on your forehead, and it's like blowing into a fireplace. It's just
So I do need to find my old hat because it has those salt stains, and
that's true.
I gotta find that. I gotta find that, and I'll bring that. So
Well, that's the one downside, and this is the last thing that I'll say about the
your
trip.
lucky hat.
This is no, I still have that.
Okay.
I don't care about that. That's the one downside is if we're going to attempt to enjoy our time more, then I would like to make sure we have some mingling clothes, so that way if we go into places, we hang out at bars or whatever the case is. I don't want to smell like an unwashed butthole.
Everywhere we went, we smelled like an unwashed butthole. Are you kidding me?
I don't
I'll
know.
bring some nappies. I brought nappies last
I had
time.
those. I had those too. I never even used them. I don't think.
I
But
used
we
them.
had
I was like,
we had plenty of spots, and I
we,
would just
we did.
wash the
I
or
want you to know
rinse the
that I enjoyed myself
clean
every
my
day
butt.
that I went. There was enjoyable things
I did
every
too.
day. The only
We wouldn't
time
be
that
doing it
sucked
again
is
if
when
I
we were
didn't.
in the sun and I was sunburnt, and then going up that hill, I thought I had a flat tire, and then I made a offhand comment. And you're like, "No, John, we've been going uphill for the last 10 miles." I was like, "Thank God it's not my tire. I don't want to have a flat tire this time."
See, that's what I'm excited about because regardless of how expensive your bike was, my bike was far inferior to yours. And like I said, with the gears slipping and it's a mountain bike, yours was a road bike, I do believe.
It is a road bike, yes. I got a
My
wide.
my
I have a. It's a. It is not a racing road bike, so it's not narrow tipped. They're still wide, but yes, it is a road bike.
the bike I just bought is a Kona Rove, which is a gravel bike specifically.
Usually
But
great.
it does have a little grip to the tires, so that way if we do a little roading or a little off-roading or whatever the case is, it's got a little versatility, but it has a little bit more slickness to the tire. Whereas my mountain bike has all the grip in the world, so it felt like I was, pedaling through mud the
What's the uh?
entire trip.
What's the pressure on that new bike?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'd have to look at it.
Because I did
I haven't
65 up front, 75 in the back.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'll get it tuned up before we go. There's a
I got to
couple
do
of
that too.
longer bike trails here in Wisconsin. I think the longest one we have is 54 miles, but I'm thinking
Ooh.
about taking a weekend in like April, early April maybe.
Get random.
And
Got it.
yeah, I was thinking about doing the full 54, camping somewhere, and doing the full 54 back, and just to like kind of start to get geared up for it. And that's not something I really did. I think the furthest I rode was 20 miles in a day before we went on that previous trip to the Katy Trail.
Honestly,
And
for me, it was 36 miles, and there were a couple beer stops. So,
yeah, mine was just I didn't even do it straight. I did it 10 miles to work, worked a 10-hour day, 10 miles home.
hey.
So, but we could talk about this all day. I think it's time that we
All
maybe
day, all
transition a
night.
bit into what's been entertaining us. And I think this is going to be a little bit of an awkward episode in the sense that I think the majority
Hey,
of what's been
James.
entertaining us.
James, I'm on every episode. So what's going to make this more awkward? I mean, I've got a shirt on. There's no non-shirt episode.
I think the thing is, it's you and I have watched two of the same movies, and I'm not sure if you have anything else to add to that. I only have two other things to add to that. But we've been doing, and I'm going to kick this series off with, or this conversation off with a series that we've been doing, which is the director we hardly know her series,
That's
which
right.
is the entire filmography of Edgar Wright. So our movie that we watched this week, separate but equal, was Hot Fuzz, which is Edgar Wright's second film, starring, of course, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and several others, but I'll get into that here more in just a little bit. It's a 2007 film. To give a really brief synopsis, just from my mind, you have Nicholas Angel, played by Simon Pegg, that is doing too well in the London police force, so he's transferred to a small village police force, and basically thinks he's going to be living kind of the boring, sad life, only to find a bigger, more murderous mystery lying underneath. And it's kind of a I don't know, a farcical film. It's almost I don't know, a direct reflection and a comedy directly put up against action movies, and it kind of throws some of the actiony tropes in the face. And I don't know. I
It
want to discuss
exactly
this
does that.
movie in a lot more detail, of course, but not rating it. But I just want you to say kind of what are your overall thoughts of Hot Fuzz?
I really do enjoy this film. I enjoy the antics that go back to Shaun of the Dead, like when they're jumping. You ever taken a shortcut? That's in Shaun of the Dead. That's in this one. Different scenario befalls hopping over these fences between people's yards, but that's still in there. I think the lines that some of the actors, the characters put into play are awesome, and if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss them, and they're
Hmm.
absolutely fantastic. Um, I do love some of the cinematography, like when they're watching those two action flicks together after a long night of drinking after that weapons haul, and that one guy is
Point
pissed.
Break and Bad Boys 2.
Yeah, and that one guy, I don't remember the short dude that was pissed drunk, who's in his home, and like some of the scenes of them are on the couch, and a hand action goes through and then
Yep.
flips over and is finished at the other guy's side of something happening to him. And I think that kind of like play is cool. It's cool to me, because if you're not watching, you'll be like, oh, what just happened, So I really do appreciate that portion of the cinematography that's put into play.
See, there's four specific details that I want to break up. Four specific conversations I want to have in regards to this film, and I think we should probably do this moving forward a little bit. But like
Get it?
its characters, plot, genre, and direction. And I don't necessarily want to rate each one individually, but if we're talking about, like you said, and I'm going to springboard off what you were just talking about, Edgar Wright's direction in this film, I love his quick cuts and when you see it all over Shaun of the Dead, you see it all over this movie. But like the scene where he's transferring from London, and I can't remember the city that he goes to, or the village that he goes to, but transferring between, it's just constant like quick jump cuts. And so he's on the train, he's at a train stop waiting, he's falling asleep, and then he's back on the train, he's looking out the window, he's falling asleep, he's and it's just really, it's a really good way to show travel and distance, especially in the EU. You it's clear
Not
they
anymore.
do. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I
Eh,
mean, I would anticipate that's still in, because the London police force comes out to help at the end. And I just want to be clear, we're doing full spoilers throughout this entire conversation. So if anyone has not seen Hot Fuzz, number one, you're stupid. Number two, uh, I don't care.
no,
So
what I'm saying is like Brexit. That's
yeah,
what I'm
that's what I'm
saying.
talking about. But so maybe I don't know Brexit too well, but you can't go between London cities, or
Oh no, you can. Brexit is the UK, you know,
yeah, yeah,
jumping out of the European Union. So when you say EU, they're not a member state of the
that's true.
European
Okay,
Union.
so just overall, okay,
Yeah, I mean, like the travel's going to be the same. Let's be honest. They've
yeah.
got great public transportation. They've got great train system. You know, yeah.
But the direction in this movie is absolutely top notch, and it's something that I'm blown away by with Edgar Wright and his with the previous movie, Shaun of the Dead, and this movie. It feels like he knocks it out of the park, which is really interesting because they deal with it on essentially what I don't know what I would call a shoestring budget. I'd have to look at it in more detail, but I feel like they're not really breaking the bank on this one. Um, which I feel like you can really see, especially in like Shaun of the Dead and this movie too. It doesn't look like the most expensive movie ever made. I feel like you could watch it and say that's maybe $1 million, $2 million movie, um, but it hits and lands in the
20.
same place, in the same place of you know, $100 million movie would. Um, what you said, a $20 million?
Yeah,
You
is
said
it a
it's
$20 million movie? How much it cost?
based on what I'm looking at here. This is just IMDb. It says that it was an estimated $8 million,
Okay.
which is crazy to me. But it also makes sense. I think it's a little bit higher than what I particularly expected, but that's still it feels like a low budget movie, like when you're watching it. But everything therein is so well written, it's so well directed that
And you
it
got to remember those are
elevates.
dollars, not British pounds, so things are a little
That's
bit
true.
more expensive.
That's true. But like I said, you already talked about it, but I think the direction is top notch. I think it's definitely out of this world. But then to get into the characters a little bit, I just don't think it's crazy to me how like small this story feels, but how well developed. Some of them are over the top hammy, like you have the Yarp character, or you have the I can't remember the actual character's name, but you have the Timothy Dalton character. He's the store owner.
Yeah.
So, man, I'm blanking on it. I just watched the rest of it today actually, but the bad guy, and he's over the top. He's kind of cartoony, but it really fits in this world. And even Simon Pegg as Nicholas Angel, he is a cartoon caricature of an action police officer. And then his little roadie, his little admirer, Nick Frost as Danny Butterman. He's just like constantly like, "What's the?" Yeah, I love that line actually. What's the most pain you've ever felt or whatever? And he's like, "Being stabbed in the hands is the single most painful thing I've ever dealt with." And he goes, "What's the second most?" And you're like,
This conversation.
"Yeah, just relax a little, dude. Back up." But I just love the small character details. But the characters specifically, this is some of the information I brought up. Is um, I love the little character like cameos or the little bit parts that like Martin Freeman play, and he's Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit,
Mhm.
which Hobbit's terrible. Lord of the Rings, awesome. Hobbit's terrible. I don't know how you feel. Doesn't matter.
I thought it was
It's all
okay. I
it's all
thought, yeah,
bad.
we could go
Um,
into that a different time.
yeah, sadly. And then you have Bill Nighy, which is, of course, the stepdad in Shaun of the Dead, among many other things, as we talked about. He's in Underworld, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just crazy how small of parts that those two actually play. And I can't remember the third police officer. If I see his name, it will jump out at me. I believe he played the lead in Hamlet too. I'll have to come back to it, but he's just hilarious. Um, because Martin Freeman's like, well, I can call my supervisor. I can call,
Yeah.
and he comes down. He's going to say the same thing, and he says the same.
That's a great saying. Yeah,
It's
because he's like,
great.
call him down. Oh, you want the head inspector? And he's like, yeah, you're making us all look bad. Well, I'll take this
Yep.
to the team. Turns around, they've already got a cake. There's like candles. There's a goodbye angel kind of sign going on. It's like, yeah, buddy, you out.
Such a great scene. But then other characters in it, like I said, Timothy Dalton, which I don't know if you know Timothy Dalton, but he was a Bond for two movies. And then you have Rafe Spall, I think his name is. He's one of the Andes, and he was actually in Shaun of the Dead. He was the young heavyweight kid that says, "You got red on you." Uh,
Mm.
so he just lost some weight, and he's been in a lot of movies since then. One of which was the most recent Jurassic World movie. So he's kind of working his way up in the world. You have Olivia
Sure.
Colman, who has recently, I think she has been in The Crown, and then she also, I think the movie is The Royal. She got an Academy Award for The Royal, but she's one of the police officers. She's like the overly horny female police officer.
Yeah.
Um, and then Rory McCann, the guy that plays the Yarp guy, you know who that is? He is the Hound in Game of Thrones.
Oh shit. Okay.
So So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then the other two that stood out to me were you remember the scene where he gets stabbed, Nicholas Angel gets stabbed by Santa Claus.
Hmm.
Santa
No,
Claus
it
is
wasn't
played,
Santa Claus.
oh,
They had,
Saint Nick, what do they call him?
well, I forgot they had something different name for him.
Sure, but he's that's Peter Jackson that plays that character.
I see.
Yep. And then his girlfriend, when he goes and she never takes her mask off, all you see is her eyes.
Hmm.
That's Kate Blanchett.
Hmm.
So it's just an interesting bunch of bit parts that never really go anywhere, never really pay off in any kind of big way.
Oh,
But
the character development.
yeah, it's really just interesting how I don't know. You know these parts come about because they watch Shaun of the Dead and they see this up and coming director Edgar Wright and they say, you know, he's going to go somewhere. So I'll be happy to be a part in any way that I can. And I think that's just a really cool piece. But as far as genre goes, what genre do you put this in?
Comedy horror.
If you And I think it's crazy because I mean it's comedy, it's horror, it's action, right?
Okay.
I mean that ending, that's what's so crazy. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just saying um I don't know that I would drop it into horror. There's the gore of horror, but there, at no point is it even scary. Like there's no
No, yeah, I think it just plays on some of like the horror genre and tries to poke a little fun at it,
sure.
and that's why I put it into that camp.
Just like Shaun of the Dead, like the idea of a zombie apocalypse movie is a horror idea, but at no point is that movie scary. It's just
Correct.
comedy, and it's. I mean, I think that one would specifically have to drop into comedy horror because of the themes, but this one probably comedy action. But yes, the slasher
Yeah.
and the
What's that? Scream or whatever that movie
yeah
was?
yeah
Yeah. That's
mhm.
basically, I think, a big take on this.
And the gore elements and stuff. I think that's so good. But that's one thing I actually wanted to mention too is like even the end of the movie, he like he's got all these guns. He's got the shotguns. He's got the pistols. He's got he comes in with like what is it, FAL? Is that what it's called? Like at the end.
I don't know what it's called.
So and then they've got like the old. I'm not a gun guy, but the side clip, almost the World War II German
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was a
machine
Thompson.
gun.
It's a Thompson with the
Yeah,
straight clip.
I
Yeah.
think you're right. Yep. So, but
Magazine.
he doesn't kill anybody. Like he's shooting like the tire of the beer truck so that the kegs roll out and knock the guy unconscious, and so on and so forth. So I thought it was a really good device. I just noticed that on this viewing. I thought he like wrecked shop because all I remembered was him like riding a horse into town with two big shotguns on his back. But I don't remember him specifically killing anybody in this outside of the
Well,
guy that blows up at the end.
yeah, before he got shipped to that town, I think there was like a line where he hadn't fired a gun in like a couple of years or something like that when he was at
Right.
that the bar or whatever. You have to go hunting for us, and he's like, "Oh, I haven't fired a weapon in 2 years or something like that."
Which I think is just interesting. It's an interesting dividing line between the fact that they still want to represent him as just a good guy
Hmm.
as opposed to the villains. Um, but like I said, genre-wise, I just obviously comedy, action, bits of horror sprinkled in. The gore is over the top, and I love it. The scene where like the newspaper reporter gets the tower dropped down on him doesn't make sense because it would have exploded through his entire body, not just his head. But hey, whatever. But it was still a very gory set piece, and it was interesting to see. Um, and then the last thing, of course, is just the plot. I like it, the defining characteristics where it's like introduction introduction to Nicholas Angel's uh, life and his transfer, and then it goes into like the second act is all the horror elements, introducing the villains and the murders, and then the third act is all action, like over the top ramping cars. I love the close up whenever they're doing the car chase and there's the swan and it like zooms in on the swan's face and he looks to the camera. He's like, "Rah!" It's so funny. But
Affleck.
exactly, exactly. Anyway, I could talk about this movie all day. I think it's legitimately got to be one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's perfect. I think it's better than Shaun of the Dead, but not by a lot. Um, Not that we're sitting here ranking these movies, but overall, where would you put it on our ranks?
I think I still think it's a great film. I put it up there. It's not. I'm not gaga about it. It's not one of those things where I'm just like uber talking about it all the time. It's very memorable and stuff like that. But I don't. It's not something where I like walk up to somebody and I automatically judge them if they haven't seen it or if they don't
Sure.
like it. I mean, like if somebody's like, "Wow, I hated Hot Fuzz," I'd be like, "Well, you're a fucking prick." So,
I just can't
but I'm
see.
not like following them home to go murder them.
See, I
So,
can't. I can't. I'm just imagining a world where somebody watches this. It's a horror film for non-horror lovers. It's a comedy film for non-comedy lovers. It's an action film for non-action lovers, and I think it just fits so well. And for that reason, I think I'm just gaga about it. I don't see how anyone could dislike this movie. I think it's right at the peak of what Edgar Wright has to offer, having watched all of his movies, of course, previously. Um, but to close off this conversation, I'm gaga about the movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of my, again, I think it has to be one of my favorite movies of all time. I've revisited every couple of years, and every time I watch it, I catch just another little piece
that
that
you
that makes me
forgot or you
laugh.
just never noticed.
Yeah, or just you just don't think about it. You don't see it the first time around, and it doesn't draw a lot of attention. I love that. It gives you plenty of reason to go back and watch it again. So, um, we'll move on to our next movie, but before I do that, the next movie that we need to watch for this series is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I actually forgot about this one. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've watched it too, but I probably have seen this movie. I'm just coming to the terms that I think Edgar Wright's just one of the best directors working because I think he only has 5 overall movies. I believe it's Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, uh, End of the World or The End of the World or The World's
Yeah.
End. That's what it's called, The World's End, and then Baby Driver. I believe that's his only 5 movies. So we're going to blaze through this series.
Well, I haven't seen Baby Driver yet.
I'm excited to have you watch that. It's very, very different.
Yeah,
So,
that's with Fox, right? Jamie Fox.
yeah, but it also has a child predator in it,
Okay, my
Kevin
uncle.
Spacey. Well said, well said. So, that's going to do it for Hot Fuzz. Let's jump into what's been entertaining you. Do you have anything
Well, I haven't played any.
exclusively?
What? Yeah, well, I haven't played any video games this week, to be honest with you. But I did watch a foreign flick. It called Lucky Grandma, and
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
overall, I thought it was a good movie. You have to pay a little bit more attention because I think it is like Mandarin. It takes place in like Chinatown, New York, or up there. Overall, the characters were great. It is one of those like comedies that does have like a moral aspect of it. Things go kind of sideways. You feel for the grandma. It's a good movie though. It's a good movie. You meet this
What
hardened grandma who,
what is
like,
it about? Yeah, I was going to ask
okay,
that.
so well, uh, there's a family. There's a grandma. The husband's passed away. She's got a little shrine for him. She basically speaks to her oracle or the fortune teller lady and says, "Hey, on this day of this birthday, you're gonna be lucky." So she like pulls all the money out of her bank account to go to a casino, and like she knows she's lucky because when she goes to the bank account, for whatever reason, the bank like she's like whatever customer in line, and they give her like 4 or 5 like giant bags of rice to deliver to her home. So basically, she goes to the casino and she's like 8, and she does 8 every time, and she just like racks up tens of thousands of dollars. She goes in there with like $1,800, wins tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then at the very end, I'm spoilers by the way, at the very end of this one table, she loses it all. It's gone. Loses it on one bet. It's all gone. She gets on
Not
the
so
bus to
lucky.
yeah, gets on the bus to go home. Luck ran out. The guy next to her dies, and she picks up his bag, and he's got a ton of cash. I mean, it's a duffel bag full of money. She takes it home, and apparently it is the accountant of a couple of gang organizations, and they know that she has the money, and so rival game or gang organizations go after her. She ends up hiring another gang to protect her. Fall in love with that character. His name's Big Pong. He's a giant enforcer. He's actually just like a kid that's here to work off some debt. Him and his sister are making some kind of app or whatever. And it goes through like her struggles and then realizing, because she's a selfish old woman, realizing that she needs to give the money back up. And one of the rival gangs actually takes like her grandson, so she has this moral dilemma. What do I do? Do I keep the money? What do I got to get my boy back? And the money ends up getting taken away from her, and she has to come up with a plan to go get her grandson. So I'm not gonna finish off the movie for everyone, but it's a good movie to watch. It has like some crazy scenes. Crazy scenes. There's a crazy guy on there. His name's like Mr. Handsome, and like one of his like opening line is like they're there. One guy's like cleaning grandma's plants, talking about how she really takes care of the plants. She's like, "What are you doing here?" or whatever. And this guy, she's like, "You don't want to get Mr. Handsome. You don't want to rile him up. He doesn't feel anything. He doesn't like to get angsty." And then the guy like cuts his tongue and like licks the blood and stuff like that. You're like, "Oh, these people are crazy." And he's a returning character for this one gang organization in there. And he constantly just getting tore up. It's a pretty good film. So
You make this sound better than I anticipated. Like having watched the trailer and so on, I was just I will say this. I'm not a huge foreign language film guy because I have a hard time
ah,
reading and focusing on the story.
mm-hmm.
I know I'm maybe in the minority and I sound like an idiot by saying that, but it is true. I have a hard time focusing um, if I'm reading along. But like I said, that sounds like it's something that would be worth it. It almost sounds like a Mandarin Lucky Number 11 or something along those lines.
I mean, it's not a lucky number, Schleven, but it's definitely a good movie. Crazy antics. You got some hardcore badass grandma who doesn't give any shits. It's like, okay,
Got
so
nothing
when
left
she
to
goes to
give.
this one gangster organization to get a bodyguard after she gets visited by this rival gang, her interaction with this gang and like trying to reduce the price of her bodyguard, like just finagling and haggling with them, is hilarious. Cause she like talks to the gangster. She's like, I can only do 5,000, and she's smoking a cigarette. This is what she does. I mean, she's like typical Chinese, smoking a cigarette, old lady. And she's like, well, maybe I'll have to forgive my medicine. I'll have to forgo my medicine so I can have the bodyguard. He's like, well, if you are concerned about your health, maybe you should stop smoking. And she's like, basically like a fuck you look on her. I mean, like it's golden. It's golden.
Don't you think I already know that by now? I'm like
Yeah.
75.
Well, she tries to play this. I'm this old little innocent grandma. I don't have a lot of money, trying to barter. And then he goes, well, I'll have to see what we have. And she's like, I want him. He likes laughing. Like, you can't have him. He's my best bodyguard. She's like, wait a minute. I said $5,000. I get, your best bodyguard. He goes, you can't have my best bodyguard for $5,000. She's like, we made a deal. Ends up, and he's like, no, you get Big Pong. He's new. And she's like, the big baby? $3,000. It's this great interaction between her and like this gangster thing, and she's not scared. She's ready there to cut a deal. So it's a good movie. It's a good movie, worth a
That
watch.
does sound pretty cool. So if you had to rate it on our scale, what would
It's
you give it?
it's a. I don't think there's a lot of replayability on it. I'm gonna say good, and I'm not trying to put that in a different light. I'm just thinking like, it's a great watch. It had lots of action, lots of entertainment, lots of laugh. I do get burned out on moral. I don't need the lesson to be learned in every film that I watch. Honestly,
Sure.
I don't need the lesson of hard knocks. Okay, go to the university if you want lessons. Um,
There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you can just watch a movie for entertainment. It doesn't have to have the
I gotta
emotional,
learn something about my
moral
heart and my
payoff. It's just
feelings. Yeah. No, I think it's a good movie. Almost. Yeah, it's good. I wouldn't put it up there with great. I think it is a great movie. There's great aspects to it, but it's just a good movie.
well, fair enough. So you did a solo one. I'll do a real quick solo one. This is
Oh,
really,
I
really,
talked too
really
much. I'm
fast.
sorry.
No. You're fine. It's nothing wrong with it at all. Mine's gonna be really fast.
Sorry, boss man. Sorry.
I'm trying to keep track this year of all of the music that I listen to. I've only listened to two new 2021 albums so far. I'm kind of excited because Foo Fighters has a new album coming out tomorrow, so I'm going to give that a listen. I'm not a fan of Foo Fighters necessarily. I like their singles, but as far as their albums go, I think that they're pretty substandard. I think that they have too much filler and blah. But I'll go into that at a later time. But this this past Friday, Weezer's "OK Human" came out, and I don't know how you feel about Weezer. I'm
I
sure
used to
that
like
you
him.
know Weezer, yeah. So like Buddy Holly, Hash Pipe, so on, so on. I again, Weezer has always been one of those bands that for me, I like most of their singles, and I'm going to say all most of their singles before 2010. And I might be wrong on my dates because I'll admit I'm not the biggest Weezer fan in the entire world. Um, but I've listened to all of their albums. Um, Generally speaking, I don't love their music, but I gave this OK Human a shot because I'm trying to find at least an album every week that I can dive into because I love all types, all genres, everything for the most part. Um, and if I were to just give a very brief explanation of this album, and it's like I said, it's going to be so brief. Again, I don't love it. It's not bad. It's just I'm going to put it in a gauche category because I don't think it has any like astronomical standout tracks, as all Weezer albums for me have had. There's one or two songs that are can't miss, and then there's one or two songs that are good, and then the rest is there. And as a general rule, I didn't hate to listen. At no point was I reaching for the phone to skip the track or wishing I hadn't paid it any mind. But I don't see myself um, really going back for another listen. And I hate to say it that way, but it is true. So for me, Weezer's "OK Human" is gauche at best. But again, I'll admit, not the biggest Weezer fan. As a Weezer aficionado might say, it might be right up your alley because I think their last couple of albums have been very pop focused and unnecessary. I think this time they got a little bit more string instrumenty oriented, a little more big bandy in some capacity, and maybe I'm
Hmm.
wrong on that, but that's just the vibe I got. They got a little bit of the flutes and the strings and I don't know. It feels like it's a little more grandiose than what they presented, like pork and beans and all that dumb shit that came before over the last 10 years from them. I think they've gotten away from their. I don't even know how to classify them. I guess they would just be pop. Did you see that? That was crazy. When I
Do it.
said pop and that little fuzz came, I think I blew a fuzz that was floating by and it just caught the reflection.
I was like, what the hell is that? Is that smoke?
No, it was cool. It was like I said, I think it was a fuzz that caught the reflection of the camera light, and as it floated away, that was right when I said pop. I keep waiting for it to happen. Like I blew a bubble. That was really cool. But like I said, I think it's easily skippable in my world. I think it's something that you personally wouldn't want to listen to. You might even go as far to say that you hated it and it's garbage. But that's just my opinion. So um, one last quick thing that I'm just going to touch on, and I'm not going to talk about it long because I'm going to do an individual review for this game. But I did roll credits right before this podcast started on Cyber Shadow. I talked about it last week. It's a like 16-bit, 8 or 16-bit like NES style game, but it was just released this year from published by Yacht Club Games. I'm blanking on the developers at this moment, but I want to get into our last movie. But overall, like I said, I'm look forward to that in the future. I have thoughts
On the game.
on the game. So,
Okay.
um, I guess to tie this podcast out, we're going to do another movie discussion, if that's all right by you.
Sure. What is it?
The Little Things, the movie that we watched together on, I believe it was it Friday
Max.
night that we watched that? HBO Max?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, The Little Things, to give a brief introduction, just as brief as I can. It's a film that was released this last Friday on HBO Max and also in theaters. HBO Max with WB, I think it is, has a deal where all of their films are going to be released for 1 month as well as in theaters. So all you have to have is an HBO Max subscription for $15, and you have access to a whole plethora of movies that we've discussed in the past, of the likes of Matrix 4, Godzilla vs. King Kong,
Dune.
Dune. Is there any that stick out to you? I don't remember exactly. This movie, The Little
Well,
Things.
there was Wonder Woman.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we'll skip that. Movie fucking sucked. But The Little Things, starring Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek, among a few others, is, I guess you would call it. And again, I don't like necessarily just reading the synopsis. So to give just a brief overview, is a movie about a has been police officer that's been kind of sucked into this world of serial killer, and he is involved in an investigation with a new up and coming detective, and together they're trying to. I'm gonna rephrase that. They're not necessarily trying to solve it, but mild spoilers. They get obsessed with one particular suspect, and it comes to the point where they don't know if they're right or they're wrong, but living in their world is more important than actually solving the crime. I guess is kind of a breakdown, kind of where I came from. And as I mentioned, you and I watched this together over just Skype and HBO Max or whatever the case may be. We just watched it separately, but at the same time, we haven't really discussed our thoughts. But overall, how did you feel about this movie?
I think on the take of like a modern day noir, like detective, solve, mystery, I think the grit and the filmography, I really appreciate them. I do appreciate that genre too. Like even going back to black and white, Kansas City, detective movies, I do appreciate that. Um, Overall, I think it's a good movie. I love like the ending aspect where you have two different scenarios that can play out in your mind for how you interpret the actions and the things and the results that come about. So
Let me say
the
this real fast. Sorry to cut you off. I want you to go right back into where you were. I, I don't know how you feel about it, but considering this movie just came out on this last Friday, and again, I know we don't have a lot of viewers, but do you think we should avoid full spoilers, or do you think we should still go into full spoilers? We did it with Wonder Woman, so I don't know how you feel about it. Because Wonder Woman was terrible and no one should watch it. So if you watched our video spoiling Wonder Woman and you were mad at us, I'm sorry that I saved you the time of watching the shit show that was the terrible movie Wonder Woman
so let's not do
84.
spoilers then. Let's not do
Okay,
spoilers.
so we'll try our best to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
Light spoilers maybe, but we
Yeah.
won't talk about the ending specifically. Sorry, go back into what you were saying.
I'm not going to talk about the ending specifically, but one part of like this type of directing of this film that they did, I think, correctly is that if you watch the movie and you pay attention, depending on who you are and other experiences, what you can derive from the actions that take place in there, you can come to two different conclusions. You and I could watch it and we could come up with different things like, hey, this actually took place, or no, this actually took place because of the way they did that. And I appreciate that kind of like where you can actually go to a coffee shop or a bar and talk about this and have a discussion, maybe even an argument of how the film ended. And I do appreciate that.
So this actually just even in this mild this little string of conversation that we've had so far, it almost makes me want to do a separate like we did with Borat,
hmm
like a just a review of the movie altogether.
I mean,
Because I'd like to. I'm
I,
not saying we go into spoilers now, but I'd like to go into more spoilers because the what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was gonna say I'm totally down for that because I'll have a discussion about the things.
I guess if we were to just give overlaying views of this movie, I think it's one of upon first viewing, um, I was not bored, but I was not blown away. There
I don't
was
think this is a blowaway type of film,
no,
honestly. It's not
it's
Big
not
Bang. It's not gonna like, oh, this
right.
is the new thing, man. Sliced bread without crusts.
See, I love looking at reviews for films, and a lot of the reviews are saying it's a slow burn that never really pays off and stuff like that. And I don't agree with that at all.
No, I don't.
I have one. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't understand why it has to pay off. Maybe it's just it's just a
I
story.
think it nails the message that it's going for,
Yeah, no,
and I
I
think
do. I think so as
yeah,
well.
and I think as a movie really, and maybe this is the pandemic me talking, but I think I loved watching this movie. I'm not going to say I love the movie as a whole, but I thought it's pacing. I thought its build overall was fantastic. The only complaint that I have, and I think it would require me to go into a little more spoilers to explain it, which I'm not going to do, is I think that Rami Malek, which is the goody two shoes up and coming detective that takes on Denzel Washington to help him with his case, is miscast. I like him a lot. In this role, I don't think they accomplished what they were going for, and I think it was entirely due to his acting chops in this role. I love him in Mr. Robot. I love him in literally every other thing I've seen him in. I just don't think that he's a little too, not to be repetitive, but robotic in his performance. And he's supposed to be this Christiany up, like again, up and coming hot shot. I mean, they even call him a holy roller throughout the movie,
That's
and
because he
it's
belongs
supposed
to
to.
the church.
Yeah,
Never
it's.
mind. That's a spoiler, and I'm not gonna do it.
I don't
Never
think it
mind.
is. I don't think that scene of it, that aspect of it is. He's.
No, pay attention to the dialogue. You
I
need to
know.
rewatch it.
I don't think that was a spoiler, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think that's a spoiler. I think it's implied that not even implied. It's specifically said that he is a religious man and he's a little bit too religious for the work that they're in, and that makes him a little difficult. But overall, he's a good cop, and so on and so forth. And I'm just like I said, I think that they could have put a different. And I don't have anyone in mind. I'm not a casting director or anything like that, casting agent, whatever. Um, but I would have liked to see somebody else in that role that could have explored it a little more. So again, overall, I really, like I said, I loved watching the movie. I love the concept of the movie. I like everything the movie did, but the movie as a whole, I have to say it probably does for me fall into the good basket.
I just think that maybe Remy was trying to be a little bit too suave or cool. Okay, when they're at that one murder scene and he's like chastising people, for the crude humor that the department has and things like that. I think he tries to be too dark and mysterious cool. I do love the acting. I think he does a good job in that role, honestly. Um, I wasn't a big fan of Mr. Robot, so I didn't really stick around for that very well. It was just too much
How much of
drama.
it did you watch? Just out of
Two
curiosity.
seasons
I
of
only
Mr.
watched the first season and I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Wow.
I heard the second season doesn't do well. Like it kind of veers off, and the third season brings it back in. But either way,
Either way,
I'm
the
surprised you
one
didn't like
big
it.
thing that I have against this film is the
Not enough dead girls.
well, dead pair of tits. Call that a weekend. Um, no, the one thing that I don't appreciate about this film is some of the things that I don't think are like okay, so I don't want to over a lot. I watch a lot of sci-fi films. I watch a lot of fantasy films.
Expanse
Spoiler,
season 5 just got reviewed on IGN.
don't
I'm just saying.
know. I'm not finished with that, so no. Um,
Okay.
but there are certain things that these two people do that I don't think any logical person or illogical person would do, and I think they just made it to hey, we need them to be in this one scenario. Yep, logic. Just do it. And so I
You
don't
know,
it breaks the film for me.
you know what this movie would have benefited from, and I don't ever say this, so this is a rarity for me. If this had been a 10 episode HBO series,
True
because
Detective?
Yeah, like a true detective. Because the thing is, it does, and this is not a spoiler, but it shows like the Denzel Washington character taking on the Mr. Robot character, and it shows their growth and their development. And I mean, again, Rami Malek like really attaches to the Denzel Washington character.
And they were at
Uh,
odds at the beginning. Maybe if there was a little bit more build up, like
like
enemies become
full on at
friends.
odds. Like he's getting his car towed. Rami
Yeah,
Malek is getting Denzel Washington's car towed, and then he like respects him, and he is wanting to work with him, and he's judging him for not solving his case, and then all of a sudden he's best friends and following in his footsteps, and it's just that development, that arc didn't have enough time to breathe. Um, and I don't need, like I said, even maybe 8 episodes. I just wanted to see a little more. I wanted to see a little bit more of two different dynamics, one of which being their relationship, the other one being a bit of a spoiler, so I won't say it.
yeah.
And I don't think it was explored appropriately in a two hour 20 minutes whatever movie. I think it needed to be a little more fleshed out. And I think having done that, or maybe, and again, maybe you leave Rami Malek in that role in that circumstance, and it might be a better experience. I would put it like I said. I'm in the good category. Where do you fall with it?
Yeah, it's it's teeter line good.
Teeter line good gauche or teeter line good great?
Good gauche. And I
Fair
like
enough.
noir films. I th-
Right.
I'm I literally it destroys me when a character does something that isn't that somebody should do. I like a lot of romantic comedies, a lot of like good. I just don't like.
It's hard to talk about this movie without accidentally jumping into a little
Yeah,
bit of
I mean
spoilers.
like you have those movies where like things are going great, boy meets girl, they're having a great time, they're going to get married, then he runs off and does something stupid that ruins everything, and I'm just like, why? This is
Full,
not logical.
right. Full spoilers. Rami Malek literally eats a living baby, which is crazy. I did not expect that
Not
twist.
that kind of crazy. I mean,
He literally eats a living baby from the head down. He starts at the head, bites it like an apple. So you're on the good train. I'm on the good train with the little things. I definitely think it's worth a watch. I just think that you need to go in with the right expectations. It's not going to be hold on to your seat. I thought it starts off with a bang. I'll say that. I
yeah,
think it
spoiler
starts off.
spoiler alert, there's no giant monster.
Why would you say that?
Well, there's no
Do
like giant build bang. Godzilla vs King Kong is about to come out. Come on, man.
you think that Rami Malek is actually King Kong?
No, but I think he works for Monarch.
Boom, boom. All right. So, with that being said, this has been the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. Again, I'm Nobody James, and this is Nobody John. John hit us with a little bit of that knowledge, a little bit of that thought process that
Man,
somehow
I didn't
you
even think about what I was gonna say
you
in
say
this.
that every episode.
Sometimes it comes to me like, I got it. This time it doesn't. But I'll tell you what. Remember, kids, stay in school because that's where the lessons are at. Hard knock lessons, they're for the fools.
And don't do drugs. Have a good week, guys.
You can do what you want.